Thank you, Michael, and thank you for showing up. Quite a crowd. I feel very intimidated now. But I have only a couple of slides. So yes, we're here today to listen to my colleagues and teammates from VELUX to learn what they hate about platform engineering. I'm really excited to know, since we're platform engineers. Yeah, that's the agenda. We're kind of in the presentation phase, and the pizza will come around 6:30. And then, yeah, we can continue discussing in bigger or smaller circles. A little bit about us. Devops Skåne, Albert, myself, and Fredrik are organizing the events. That's not the original start of the Devops Skåne, but that's the setup now. Since the beginning, there were already 47 meetups. We have around 1,200 members on meetup.com. So it's very lively, and yeah, I'm glad it reached you too. We have our, as I say, group on Meetup that we use to announce the events, but as you know, we sign up through FooCafe. We have a group on LinkedIn where we try to put information about events and whatever else might be important. We have GitHub. I don't really know what we keep there, but Albert knows. If you want to know, you can check with him. But I would like to ask a quick questions. Like, who here found out about the event during Meetup? Sorry, through Meetup. Okay, well then LinkedIn and FooCafe. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. There was something else I was. Is there anyone here who doesn't want their picture posted because we'll be taking pictures and they may end up on LinkedIn? Anyone is like has a problem with that? You make my life so much easier. And now, yeah, let's give some little applause of encouragement to Dan and Emma.
No worries, no worries. Okay.
All right. Let's see if I can grab the slides here.
All right. Welcome to 10 Things We Hate About Platform Engineering, which is kind of a wild clickbaity title to give when you're working in a platform engineering team. But the point is, we've seen a lot of pitfalls throughout our career, working with DevOps, working with DevX, and now platform engineering. And that's kind of just what we're here to talk about, our learnings and the mistakes we've made that we've seen throughout our career. And just because Evelina is here, and our boss as well, just to mention, this is not about VELUX. It's about more general stuff. So it's good to cover that. But a little bit about us. My name is Emma, and I'm a platform advocate. And that means I drive discovery efforts and insights for VELUX, both for the platform team, but also for the organization around us to drive developer experience in the organization and kind of make us faster and better and more productive at delivering software, right? And I come from a product management background, so you won't hear a lot of code from me. You'll hear more about organizational issues and more about product stuff. So yeah, over to you.
Yeah, my name is Dan. I recently started at VELUX together with Emma as a platform owner for a team that manages various Kubernetes clusters to our customers, internal customers. In that role, we have 12 colleagues, approximately 12 colleagues, helping to build this platform. And we'll get into what we mean by platform in a minute. Previously, I was a DevOps consultant I'm from Jutland in Denmark, where I have helped organizations do platform engineering, venturing into this. It's quite new to many. So as you mentioned, it's not necessarily just from VELUX that we see pitfalls or steps that sometimes are hard to take, but something that we see as a more general challenge for a lot of companies that thinks platform engineering is the way to go.
Yeah, so first a little bit about VELUX if you don't know us already. We make roof windows. And VELUX actually stands for, the VE is ventilation, and the LUX is obviously Latin for light. And that's kind of what we bring. That's our purpose, to create well-being for people and planet by transforming spaces using daylight and fresh air. So that's kind of the written purpose of our company.
Yeah. And as I mentioned, when we started at VELUX, 1st of May, Henrik and I have been colleagues before. My boss, our boss, I asked him at some point, we know we make Windows, right? Why on earth do we need so many Kubernetes clusters for that? But the truth is, the truth is that we are supporting our manufacturing, our factories across the world to produce these windows, and of course they need to be efficient and have all the data available in order to improve just normal manufacturing processes. And they need software to run. There are machines there that sends data, and all that needs to run on a platform. So we support, our main customer is actually also a platform team, what is called OT, Operational Technology, I guess it stands for. A lot of IoT devices, a lot of things that they need to take care of, and they have chosen to build their platform on top of ours. So we have a lot of on-prem clusters in our factories, and we also support the jobs that we have across the world, such that people can actually buy and order the windows, that the people that installs the windows have the help that they need, and so on and so forth. And that kind of answers why there needs to be software somewhere. Everything needs a Kubernetes cluster these days, right? But just to say that, to get us everyone on the same page, what is a platform? And I absolutely love this quote from Evan Butcher. I think he posted it on Martin Fowler's page at some point. That it is a digital platform that is a foundation of self-service APIs, tools, services, knowledge and support, which are arranged as a compelling product, internal product. We'll get back a lot into what we mean by product. Where autonomous delivery teams can, it's optional, make use of the platform to deliver product features at a higher pace with reduced coordination. And what we like about this quote is that it's technology agnostic. It doesn't say anything about that it needs to run on certain technologies or architectures or and so on. So it kind of makes room to say, well, I guess we also do in platform engineering because we use these approaches here. Yep.
Yeah, so, but for our context, where we're from, and just to get everyone here on the same page about what we mean when we say platform engineering, I think we stand a lot on the shoulders of this white paper that comes from the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. They have this platforms working group, and they've kind of been working hard to define what do the Cloud Native Computing Foundation mean by platform engineering, and that's kind of what you see here. If we go from the top, because that's how I like to look at this. We have the product and the application teams here on top, and what they really interact with is the platform interfaces. That's kind of what's new about this whole platform engineering thing, right? We've always been doing these platform capabilities underneath that we need to deliver software, but the new thing is more of the interfaces, so APIs and CLIs, and some of you may have heard about Backstage, which is like a developer interface, a web portal, right? And so these are kind of the things that are supposed to take some complexity away from the capabilities underneath by abstracting it away and kind of making sure developers maybe don't need to know as much about Kubernetes or how to write pipelines or how to manage artifacts and policies and all these things that we know can be quite complex and bring a lot of cognitive load. And remember, these teams, they're all doing products, right? They're all doing things that are more out towards the end user, and so it's a good thing to kind of abstract them away. That's at least what we try to do with platform engineering.
Can I ask you if you might stand on that side?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Am I
of course.
standing good enough? Okay.
So yeah, maybe some of you are any of you working in platform engineering teams already? Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Maybe some of you were DevOps teams before. Maybe some of you went to a conference or a visionary leader of your a leader of yours went to a conference and they were like, yeah, platform engineering is the new shit. Let's do this, right? So what about DevOps? What do we do about that? And I think Dan might have something to say about that.
Yeah, this is our first movie analogy. It's a splatter horror movie from '92. It was actually called Brain Dead. The thing about this is that is it still dead or is it still alive? This DevOps thingy. Well, DevOps is dead. Long live platform engineering, right? That's what we heard from marketing bullshit. And I believe it's marketing bullshit. Of course, there are things that we do differently, and I'll get back to that in a minute. But I like to put it this way: it's sure it's easier to stand on the shoulder of giants if you kill them first. But you probably won't see as far if you actually know what you're building upon. So, when I first saw platform engineering and I saw some of the ways that the collaboration was thought about, there are of course a lot of great resources out in the world, team topologies, and other stuff out there that says a little bit about how we should interact and so on. But first, when I saw it, I thought, well, are we then back to the silos again? Are we back to that the collaboration model between the teams that needs the platform and the platform team is just through tickets? Are we back to that the platform engineering team is purely operational? And I don't think so. And I think some of the most important things to take from DevOps that we still can learn a lot about today is actually some of these values that we've heard of previously. Comms, right? Culture, automation, lean, measurement, sharing. Because when we talk about culture, we still need psychological safety, both in normal application development teams, but of course also in a platform team. If we don't trust each other, everything else doesn't matter. So we still need to build a team culture that enables a team to move fast and efficiently and be productive. And of course, we have a lot of automation. We cannot, as a platform team, scale to the use of supporting tenfold, 10 times the more people than we are in a platform team if we don't heavily automate all the things that we do. And of course, we also need lean, right? When we actually have a problem that we know that this is what we're going to solve, and we have as a solution in mind, when we are going to deliver it, we need to have a fast way to do it. Nothing changed there. Measurement. We will talk a bit about developer experience. It may be a little different from measurement when we talk about it in the old days from DevOps, but absolutely we need to know if the teams that we support are enjoying our product, if they feel more productive, if we have removed cognitive load and complexity for them. And maybe we also need to engage in how they actually interact with our systems. Not to judge them, not to put a pin on them, but to actually have something that we can see will improve whatever product, whatever platform that we are building. And therefore we also need sharing. We need to be good at actually telling what new features, what we will enable as a platform team for the users of our platform. Of course, we also need a lot of feedback back again. So at least from that perspective, I would say DevOps is of course not dead. There might be something related to how teams work. Back in the past, a DevOps team needs to know everything from chip design up until the color of the button in the UI. I believe that this is some of the things that platform engineering is taking away from teams, such that they don't need to know all the nitty-gritty details. So yeah. And then let's talk a bit about Titanic. Because oftentimes I feel, and I've experienced this actually, that platform teams' journey risk is resembling the maiden voyage of Titanic. And what do I mean by that? I believe that as platform teams, we are often navigating rough and sometimes icy waters. Many of us come from are working in traditional organizations that still rely on old methods from maybe previous decades, waterfall, long projects, all these things. And actually most of our colleagues don't have any clue about what platform engineering is all about. Maybe we have taken the red pill and completely understands that. That's a different movie analogy that we will use in another time. uh, and that can create friction when we introduce new practices, when we have new ways of working in a traditional organization. It's actually a lot like how Agile has disrupted and still disrupts many organizations. Because platform engineering, in my opinion, is actually just building on top of good, sound, agile principles. And then we just add another really hard thing to tackle. That is product thinking into that mix. So if we don't recognize these tensions and spot these icebergs, we're bound to crash into them. We need to figure out when to navigate around them and when we should have a big hairdryer to try to actually melt them. And like Titanic was thought of, believed that it was unsinkable. I've seen that we can become too confident that we have the trust of and all management on board. It's not necessarily that they get the vision every time what is actually achievable with this. And suddenly organization waters change. The leaders who support us might leave. Maybe there's a new global strategy that hits us. And then while the deck tilts and water begins to float in, we still hear the musicians play, but maybe it's a little more in a minor key now. So will we make it? I believe that if we cannot demonstrate business value as a platform team, we risk ending up like Jack and Rose here. Some of us will probably drown. Some of us will at best stay afloat on a raft, organizational driftwood, with far less power and way less potential than what a platform actually could offer if people just understood the value of it. So there's a big burden for us as platform teams to translate tech into business. And I'm not saying that everyone on a platform team should be able to do this. The more the better. The more that actually understand what kind of business value that we're trying to do with our platform, the better. So when we're talking about, well, we have just improved a CI/CD pipeline by 10 times, or that we have simplified developer onboarding, it doesn't necessarily ring a bell to the business. So, and it's really hard actually from a platform team, because we are proxies to other teams' success, and in the end it will be success to the end customer. But if we can talk more into these buckets here, that we have maybe when we are improving CI/CD pipelines, then that means that we have a better time to market, or that we are better at seeing changes in the market, such that we can protect revenue when competitors are doing stuff that we didn't thought of. And I think that's really important, that we always consider what are we there for, and business is a big part of it. It's actually where we get our pay.
Yeah. So I will take the stand here.
Yep.
So I chose Home Alone because sadly I've seen this more than once. So I think that's enough to call it a pitfall, a common pitfall, right? But anyways, picture this. You've built a platform. It's got all these cool new capabilities, all the shiniest new tech, and perhaps you made a couple of nice abstractions on top. And yeah, you build it so they'll come, right? That's at least what you think. But the problem is you have no users. You probably didn't stop and ask them if they wanted this stuff, right? And so you're starting to feel a little bit like Kevin here, all home alone. It was kind of fun at first, being alone, being able to do whatever you wanted. You could eat ice cream in bed. You could watch TV till the long hours of the night. But it might become feeling a little bit lonely. And maybe you're also trying to set traps so management doesn't realize that you've created absolutely no value yet. So what went wrong? Well, you probably waited too long to adopt some users, or at least try out your ideas and validate it with them. And typically this happens when you haven't really thought of what is the thinnest viable platform. I'll get back to what that is later. And instead, you just kind of focus on building a platform that has the shiniest new tech. And it started to look a little bit like this, the CNCF eco landscape, right? Or ecosystem is what it's called. It kind of became the thickest viable platform. Yeah, you ended up with a monster with no users. So what do you do instead? As a product person, this is probably where I'd start instead. I would start with a need. You know, when teams come to you with some sort of feature request, some sort of problem, typically they already got the solution in hand, and that might be cool if you want to go and just build that. But try asking them why, and then keep asking them why. Keep asking them why until they're annoyed, and you get to the core of the problem. You kind of want to annoy them with the whys until they state exactly what it is that they're frustrated about or what they need. Then afterwards, you try to do some rapid experimentation. I like to do prototypings. It's different from prototyping. Prototypings, you spend weeks, months trying to get something working, right? Here you do hours, days. You try to visualize your ideas. You try to do the smallest part possible that you can do to try to show them what it is you have a solution for, what it is your idea is, right? And then lastly, you validate it with the users. And once you've gotten that stamp, then you can go ahead and build it and feel confident that they'll use it because, hey, they just told you. So yeah, let's say you have some engineers out there. They are having an issue writing Helm charts. I think that's a typical problem. Maybe you've seen that too. You have to support them a lot in writing these charts. Visualize what it would look like if you made a generic service chart for them. Something that they could use for whatever they're running now or whatever platform they're on right now. And then if they like it, build it. And then you can start building the capabilities underneath it. So you start with something that's more of an abstraction, an API, and then you layer down, right? And then you tackle the next problem and you go from there. And that's how you really build an awesome, valuable platform, in my opinion.
So, yeah, the ring, that is a horror story, right? It's also an alias for being on call. This is a touchy subject. So here's a horror story. So we just clocked out, ready to enjoy a well-deserved weekend, but halfway through dinner with friends or family, your pager goes off, piercing the evening like that cursed phone call from the ring. Dread sets in. What could it be? A critical system is down every minute. Money is pouring down the drain. You scramble for your laptop. It's still warm from the day's work, but the situation is far colder. The documentation that you rely on is outdated. The runbooks that you need to have nowhere to be found. After hours of wrestling with the issue, nerves creeping in, you realize you need help. You call a teammate, feeling really guilty to wake them up, knowing that you couldn't get it under control by yourself. But you both finally managed to get the service back online. Only for the pager to strike again an hour later. The same issue haunting you like Samara here crawling out of the TV screen. The root cause is still lurking unresolved. So this is a true horror story, right? Endless torture. But how do we actually determine whether a platform team should be on call for the services and the systems that they are responsible for? I have an opinion, but I actually like to hear yours. So raise of hands who believe a platform team should be on call for their services. For
Your
the
platform.
critical platform services that they have in their platform.
Depends on if it's in the SLA or
Yeah, good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
paid.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's a good answer. Actually, I was curious because I don't know what the general opinion is on this one. So I asked the internet, also known as LinkedIn, and more than 50% actually thought on this poll that platform teams should be on call, and around 20-25% believe that they shouldn't. And that is the discussion I like to hear, because it's kind of interesting. And it depends. I would like to put the button on the yes, because I guess that it actually depends whether, as you mentioned, that what are we relying on then?
Most
Uh,
importantly, can this wait till Monday?
exactly. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Exactly. But here's my decision tree. The decision on on-call, do we have business critical services running on our platform that also needs to be available outside office hours? It's a sure yes, we need to be on call. If not, then we could ask if it's okay with our stakeholders to have support within working hours. If not, there's probably a discussion going on. Maybe it'll end up in on-call again. My bet is that eventually, when time goes, we have the same loop here. We probably have something outside office hours that should be business critical. Otherwise, why? What are we doing with our platform then? Yeah, but it's so frightening, right? And I think some of the things, there are a lot of things that we need to have in place before we can actually do this. Just to mention some of it, we need to have some way to practice this, like firemen and evacuation drills and doctors. We need to exercise this muscle memory such that when we have an incident, that it's not far from a critical incident, it's not far from what we have trained for. Maybe we know the process, maybe it's a new different incident that we haven't seen before, but we know the process at least. That's not cognitive load in our head uh, when we are in a situation where we have a criticality. So some ways to do this is just to make a desktop exercise where we choose scenarios that we are familiar with. Maybe it's to simulate the latest top 5 incidents that we've had before. And it doesn't necessarily need to occupy the whole team, but maybe just 1 or 2 small exercises in order to, again, to train that muscle. And we can also go by something that is a bit deeper, more complex, but to do game days where we have real scenarios running in real environments, probably not production first, with some predefined experiments. And we can use something like chaos engineering for some of this, where it's a great tool to actually answer to be aware of the unknown unknowns, where we thought, well, we haven't seen that coming. So, but I believe that practice, whether it's actually on a desktop exercise or a game day or something completely different, requires some facilitation, and in general, within a broad organization, it requires that it's a priority, that we are allowed as a team to train this, right? And we should probably, of course, also avoid burnout, because the horror story that I mentioned would, of course, lead to burnout. So if we have clear schedules, on-call rotations, everyone involved, we have escalation in place, we know how we should communicate this, that would be, of course, a really great way to go. And of course, we are not expected to be at work at 9 a.m. in the morning at the daily stand-up when we have had a night with either incidents or actually non-incidents. And of course, we should have compensation for it as well. There are much more to this, and I think it's a really both touchy subject, as I mentioned, but also something that I think is very opinionated. So, yeah.
Yeah. So before I talked a little bit about how to take some needs and prototype them and make them into great valuable solutions. So maybe you're already in that spot where you're doing these things, right? And you're really creating value for users. You're really helping them with what they need, and that's really good. There's a catch though. Suddenly, everyone wants you to solve everything, right? And you're suddenly kind of feeling like Ethan Hunt on a mission impossible. You might have looked really cool at first, solving everyone's problems. but it's kind of starting to explode around you. And I do know they say cool guys don't look at explosions, but you have to kind of look at the explosions, right? Because at some point you're gonna need a hand. You're burned out and you're barely holding on. And I think some common pitfalls that we see here is, well, too high of a cognitive load. Maybe we have too many team-specific solutions around us that only one team is using. It's not really standardized. It's not really scalable, and we're kind of losing focus on these strategic goals that we need to have as a team to figure out where is responsibility, where do they actually start, and where do they also stop? What can we say yes to, but also what can we say no to ensure that we don't become Ethan Hunt or barely hanging on, right? So that brings me actually already to my other movie reference, which is something I see a lot in a bunch of platform teams. Alice here, well, she's wandering around in a weird, chaotic world. She doesn't know where she's going, or how she's gonna get out, or how she's gonna get around, and she finds herself, without no clear direction, right? And in that way, she's kind of like a lot of platform teams that I've seen out there, wandering aimlessly. It's right? Roadmaps. I see that a lot. Platform teams not having roadmaps. My point is, though, where we're going, we do need roadmaps, because if we want to treat the platform as a product, if we want to avoid burnout, not having too many team-specific solutions, and we want to make sure that we can actually deliver effectively, we need to make sure we know where we're going, and like I said, what can we say yes to, what can we say no to. And we need to commit to some goals to achieve them. So without roadmap, it's not just a lack of direction, it's a lack of future. So if you're out there and you're kind of feeling like this, Alice, wandering around in a maze, don't worry, I have some actionable tips. So what I would try to do instead is start first by creating a vision. That's really important to know, what are we here for as a team? What's our mission? What kind of values do we have when we're working? And from that, we can kind of create a roadmap with the strategies of how we're going to achieve that mission, right? And then once we've done that, we should align to it. We should commit. And once everyone's on the same page, that's really where magic happens, in my opinion. That's what I've seen as a product manager in these platform teams, is that once we really are all focused on the same path, that's where we'll really do great stuff. And also be able to say no a lot to the wrong things and say yes to the right things. We need to start working as product teams, cohesive, aligned, and committed, because we're doing platform as a product. If we're not working as product teams, then we're not doing platform as a product. And I would argue that it's hard to do platform engineering. Yeah. Without these goals and these visions, and these directions, we're just kind of like a bunch of Alices, all lost and confused.
Jurassic Park. And I guess maybe some of you are thinking that must be about catching and placing big legacy creatures in modern environments. But it's actually not. This is a whole different story, and it touches upon a lot of what Emma said before. This is about our priorities and how we work with them. So the doctor from the movie Ian Malcolm has this great quote that your scientists were so preoccupied with whether they could, they didn't stop to think if they should. So what is actually best for teams that approach us with a problem, to say yes to every request? Is it to say no to every request? It's kind of binary, right? How do we actually know when to say yes and when should we say no to stuff? It's not easy. To put it in a different way, when should we do it? Should we do this now? Should we wait and do it later because we need a little more maybe knowledge around the problem? Should we maybe just kill it and say, nope, we're not going to do that? And that, to refer back to what Emma said, that we need to have a sort of vision. Where is the domain? What is the problems that we are here to tackle, and definitely what shouldn't we tackle? That might help us to decide this a bit more. Because oftentimes, if you don't do this, it becomes very local. I think that maybe someone internal in the team, maybe someone has just asked for a possible solution in an email or Slack message or by the water cooler. Then we go through a lot of meetings discussing only the solution, probably only with a narrow scope of stakeholders, maybe just the one that has requested it. And we end up with some vague design, of course, not anything written, right? Just a vague design, because actually, when we are engineers, we absolutely love to code. So let's get to that phase immediately. And maybe it's actually bigger than we thought. And we figure that out eventually, and then we have some big pull request up for review for the team. We tell them to grab a big cup of coffee and say to them, but luckily we didn't do any tests, so we have spared you for that. And then tada, maybe we did something of value, at least to some of those that requested it, right? I think this is stupid. We don't have any processes and no documentation and no connection to why we actually did this. But we are agile, right? That's not how we work. We are agile. So we accidentally came to value endless DMs and meetings over processes and tools, pseudocode like scripts and YAML over comprehensive documentation. So much coordination over contract negotiation and constantly changing direction. So that is, we hate the items on the right so much that it's okay to suck at the items on the left. I believe that we instead should probably be very curious on the problem up first, right? Stop up, think, analyze. It's almost forbidden words. Being curious on the problem. Try to open up the scope of what could be considered the problem scope here. Diverge up until that you are really clear on something, and then we can converge again to some kind of problem statement. And after we have done that, then it's time again to say, okay, this is the problem that we're actually trying to solve with what we have. What possible solutions should we go for? What could we aim for? What is the cheapest? What is that of best quality? What is something that is maybe considered the best future? And again, open up for that. And then we can begin to deliver, right? Up until we end up to a solution. And this looks a lot like phases, I know, but I don't think necessarily that this are phases. It's much better to be a little curious on the problems than we have and do the right things, right, rather than just do things right. If we just tackle whatever that we have, it probably is not the right things that we are doing. And I think that's, as engineers, it's actually hard, because I think a lot of times that what we're really great at is being curious on the solution. What is the solution? But I truly believe that if we are more curious on the problems, if we're more curious on asking the questions, maybe have more interests, stakeholders in this one, then I truly believe we are at a better place.
So, in one of our other points, we mentioned that it's pretty important being clear on your own responsibilities and your scope. Where does it start? Where does it stop? It gives you the possibility to say no and be clear about which problems are you actually solving for your business. If you don't, I think a common pitfall that we end up is this one. One platform to rule them all. And it's just to say, while we don't often acknowledge this, not everything can be solved with our precious Kubernetes. We think it can, but not everything can be. And the idea that there should be one single platform team that fixes everything for the whole engineering organization, it's just is just plain wrong, in my opinion. There needs to be some sort of understanding about where's your value stream, who are you actually serving, and similarly, who are you not serving. Perhaps you've had some of these. I know I've had a bunch of them. Snowflake devs is what I call them. They're the special ones, right? The ones that really won't adhere to your cloud native journey. And they're the ones that always needs the special solutions. And they're the ones sometimes really burning you out. And I think of them a little bit like the hobbits of the Shire. They're content in their own little magical fantasy world. They don't really want to do the dirty work. They just want to stay in their safe little spot. But just as the hobbits didn't seek out the wars of the Middle Earth by themselves, you don't have to force these snowflake devs onto your platform like you're Gandalf, right? The thing is, not every team is meant to be part of cloud native perfection. And maybe you should just let them remain in that comfort zone that they're in. Because either they'll venture out on themselves, or otherwise maybe the business will send another fellowship to help them. Yeah. Again, there can be other platforms teams serving other teams and their unique needs, or fellowships, if that's what you want to call them. And that's okay. So now that we spent a bunch of time ranting about pitfalls in platform engineering, I just want to make it really clear. Of course, we love platform engineering. We do believe it's the right path forward. It's better than what we did before, which is dump all these tools and complexities onto teams that just kind of got loaded, trying to deliver value themselves, but also knowing how to, figure out all these tools and Kubernetes and everything, right? So we do think this is the next big thing, and it should be. And of course, it's still very new, right? So of course we're going to do all the pitfalls, and that's kind of why we want to stand up here and talk about them today, because maybe hopefully you learned a bit or have some new inspiration, and maybe you're not going to do all the pitfalls that we've seen or done ourselves. So really come ask us questions afterwards, speak with us. We'd love to talk to you about what you see in your organizations, and I don't think we have much else to say, but thank you for listening.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.